on this week's Rockstar Superhero. I know I'm prone to hyperbole, but on rare occasion I'm so taken by a guest that I stray off topic and find myself trying to get back to the point of the interview. Fortunately today, my joy in talking to Fia Nyxx kept me engaged, and we talked about the true depth of her work and where she's going. Now let me tell you, there is nothing that's going to stop this young lady. Her talent is already well known, and her persona, coupled with the very real woman I met today, lets you know straight away she defines power, femininity, and purpose. She's centered in a way very few are. So, wow. That would be my response. Just wow. This is Fia Nyxx, and this is your favorite long-form music interview show, Rockstar Superhero. I am so stoked you're here, and thank you for making the time for me today.
Yeah. Oh my God. I've been waiting to get on here and chat with you. I've been so excited. I've been listening to your podcast for a long time. And then you interviewed one of my good friends, Marley, not that long ago.
Yeah.
But I love what you do. I love that you give these artists a chance to really dive deep. There's not a lot of people that, really want to know like what's behind the music. Who are we as people and as a soul? And you seem to like be on my same wavelength with that. I'm very much into like all that stuff. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm just happy to be here and get to chat with you.
Yeah, well, thanks for the nice words back. And let me ask you this. You mentioned earlier today, we had to sort of reschedule this conversation. So are you on tour currently? What's the deal with you?
Yeah, so I am kind of all over the place at the moment. I am touring. I'm in a couple different contests for Top Artist of 2022 in a few different states. So I had something in Colorado recently, and it's Colorado Public Radio. I'm in the running for the Top Artist there. So wow. I was there doing stuff for that, and then came back to Maryland where I now live. And then tomorrow I fly to LA because we're in pre-production of my next album. And I also have a couple shows I'm gearing up for. So yeah, I'm all over the place, but 2023 is looking to be good. So I'm here for it.
Oh, so you're proof that you can do it if you just put in the effort, eh?
Yes, I like to think so.
Yeah, that is rad. So you said Maryland, is that?
Yep.
Okay,
yeah, a tiny little town. I couldn't even tell you because I, first of all, can barely pronounce it, and you wouldn't know where it was anyway, so it really doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, thank you for just killing my buzz right like that.
Right. So,
yay, you.
Hey, that's proof that you can really, especially since the pandemic, more so, but you can really do this career and thrive in this industry wherever you are. And thank you, social media and virtual abilities. But yeah, if I can do this in middle of nowhere Maryland, so can you.
Yeah, well, I'm proof too, right? I'm doing it in the middle of nowhere Washington State, and my goal is to actually do it in the middle of nowhere in Japan.
See, that would be fun. And why not, right?
Absolutely. I'm you don't know this, but I am married to a Japanese. Well, maybe you do listening to my show, but I'm married to a Japanese woman, and I have 6 kids, 3 of which are still at home. And my biggest desire ever since 1998 it was the first time I went to Japan, was just, oh my God, the culture and just the way, the feeling of the country, the smells and the way the culture interacts and the cleanliness and the timeliness and all those little things that are super important to me are their keys to life. It's the way they operate there. Yeah. And that sort of weird combination of friendliness and indifference is exactly sort of how I fit into the world. I know I'm an eccentric, but I dig that. And so that's what I love about the culture. And for me, I think the pandemic really taught us, Fia, that we can do anything. One, we can do anything anyway.
That's
but
right.
But we can do anything anywhere, really. I mean, obviously, there's a few exceptions. There are certain types of jobs that just sort of require you to be in a specific area because that's where there's a market for it. But I think at least in the arts, in a creative space, we're allowed to go anywhere. And as long as we're hardworking and ambitious enough, I think we can get our message out there.
I agree. I mean, I am a victim of being on the other side of that because I used to kind of fall victim to that mentality of you have to be in LA and you have to be like, you know, out there mingling every single day. And it can become this little box that you put yourself in. It's very limiting. It's a very limiting belief. And then my mom would always tell me, but it would annoy me at the time because I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. But she would always say, the world is your backyard. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense, right? Like, I need to be here. But the more that I started to really embody that and realize like, that is actually very true. Yeah. I am a flight away at any moment, and being kind of, you know, broadening my horizons and being able to be in different cities at different times and on a whim has actually increased my success. And it's made me that much more, you know, viable for these different opportunities to come my way. And so I do truly believe that, as like cliche as it sounds, really though, the world can be your backyard. Yeah. And I think it just enriches your journey, but also your experience as a musician or whatever field you're in, seeing more things, experiencing more cultures, and like getting yourself out of this, like what you're supposed to do type of mentality, especially in the industry of music and art.
Right. Well, that what you're supposed to do comment, that's exactly the most important and most difficult thing. You know, so I'm not going to take myself in this example, but I know you know what I mean. And I think any artist listening certainly can agree. It's that there's this desire to get your voice out there. And there's this combination of fear that, okay, but what's it going to take? Like, I'm not just talking about the passion and the love to do it, but, you know, you mentioned the ability to say, jump on a plane. Well, a lot of people are defeated by the idea of that.
Absolutely.
Not the fear of it, but the cost of it.
Yes.
Right. And I think it really goes, I mean, every podcast I personally listen to is always a conversation with somebody who has either had success later in life, right? Or at least somebody who's been pure to their intentions the entire time, that they've said, no matter what, I knew if I just stuck to my guns, I had a place, I had my own place. And I just refused to stop. Nope. This is what I do, you know?
Yeah. I love that.
You know, and I'm proud of you, not really knowing you, but I'm proud of you for having that ferocity, you know, that fearlessness, and obviously good parenting that encouraged you to make the world your oyster.
Yes, absolutely that. I know I owe a lot of just my success in general with how I was raised and my parents, and just this, when we were little, from the time we were little, we were always just playing. The world was make believe. It was whatever we wanted it to be. And like, I think that some part of me never lost that. So I'm always playing. I'm always happy and excited to, like, I don't know. I stopped taking it so seriously at one point and just thought, you know what, this is fun. I love music. I love my life. I love to travel. And that's just is what it is. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to love it. And I'm going to stop worrying about the end goal or being famous or getting heard as much. It's like, it's not that serious to me anymore. Yeah. I mean, it is and it isn't. It's like taking that pressure off, taking those limiting beliefs off, doing what I feel resonates with me, enjoying my life, because it is sometimes more than just this constant fight to get to this kind of elusive like end goal, which is hard to define in itself. It's like, goddamn, I just want to enjoy the ride. Let's go.
Yeah, you know, but there's this thing. So look, again, I'm proud of you. I love what you're saying, and I agree with you 100%. If I could exaggerate it and say 1,000%, I agree with you. I think the difficulty for somebody, at least my age, is as you know, back then, I mean, I'm much older than you, and I mean, but I am. I mean, I'm certainly old enough to be your dad, and you know, so my experiences as a boy growing up in the very early 70s. I mean, I remember. I was born in 1966, right? So I'm 56. I'll be 57 this year, and at that time, it was all about record labels, and it was all about, I mean, you had to have a deal. You had to have management. You had to have an agent. You had to have a publicist. You had to have, you see what I'm saying? You had to have those things. You had to appear on the Tonight Show, or you were not going anywhere.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, you had to. And that is an absurd level of expectation that, you know, not even the 1% or the 1% of the 1% got to do. It was the elite few. And and so there was a lot of talent built up behind it, but there was a lot of luck. And the older I get, I mean, I'm always hesitant to use the word luck, but the older I get, the more I realize luck is a thing.
It is. I agree. It is a thing.
Right. You have to be prepared. That's that's the argument for people who are against the idea of luck. You have to be prepared for the moment where, you know, luck smacks you in the face.
Right.
But that moment has to happen.
Absolutely.
You know,
and that's the thing. I think it is kind of just what you call it, because, and I know I'm listening to you too, like you are big into like manifestation and like your spiritual beliefs as well as I am. And I believe that all of that plays such a huge factor. And whether you want to call that luck or God or the universe or whatever it may be, I do believe, as well as you're saying, it does take you putting in as much effort as you can, always showing up, being prepared, doing that groundwork so that when the opportunity arises, you are ready. But it is absolutely both. You need both.
Yes. And so look, I actually want to go down this road for a second, because I think this will be fun.
Yeah.
I don't want to, again, I always tell everybody this, I don't want to Jesus you at this moment, but I think of it from a Christian point of view. I'm going to go down the pure Christian path, at least as much as I understand about my own faith, right?
Yeah.
I am very much what I would call a failed Christian. I have my beliefs. I grew up within the church. So of course I'm going to have some of those beliefs because I grew up in it. I was surrounded by it. And I'm not saying as I got older, I stopped believing. That's not the case. I absolutely believe what I believe, if that makes sense. But the thing that I've discovered as I've unreligioned myself, as I have attempted to become more pure in my approach towards the spirit and what I believe is God and what I believe Jesus meant. Right? If I'm going down that road, I have to excuse my language, but I have to unfuck myself from religion.
Absolutely.
Because the problem with religion, that's the man-made portion of this, and leave it to people to take a beautiful message of hope and inspiration and holiness and turn it into but.
Exactly.
Because that's what I mean, I'm sorry, fellow Christians, but that is a huge problem within the church. Is there's a lot of but. Okay. So here's where I'm going with all this. When we were talking about luck a second ago, if the Bible is true, and I believe it to be true, it's just my own take, but I believe it to be true. I also do believe it to be an incredible collection of parables and stories, which may or may not be true, but still speak to the human condition.
Right.
Okay. If all those things are true, if Christ was the Messiah, and I choose to believe this, then God has already done everything for us.
Absolutely.
If Christ is the Messiah, people, he did every damn thing
I agree.
Already. That's why Jesus said it is finished. He didn't say, but I want Rob to be a famous drummer. I want Fia to be a famous singer. I want the Atlanta Braves to win the World Series. And I want Donald Trump to die in 2024. I mean, are you kidding me? You know, I'm sorry, people. It's not a political thing. It's just my brain. Well, it could be. Yeah. But so in other words, if the rest is left to us, then it is up to us to take our spiritual gifts, our right, and whether they're professional or not, whether they're hobbies or not, right? I don't know what this is. I would love this to be professional. I would love to have a paying talk show,
right? Which you should, but yes,
which I 1000% agree with you, Fia. But here's the thing. For whatever reason, it hasn't yet happened.
Right.
Now, I believe that's a number of things. One, the right, and I don't mean that all my listeners aren't the right people, but the right person that can break my show hasn't come along. And I've interviewed very, very famous people.
Right.
So for whatever reason, it hasn't connected in that way where there's economics involved.
Right.
But it's also afforded me, and this is what your career has done, is it's afforded you time to develop and become the very special Fia that I'm talking to today.
Thank you. And I completely agree with everything you just said. I could literally go off on I have 700 things I want to say right now.
Please do. Let's make it about this. We'll talk about the album seriously. At the end.
Well, yeah, literally. Well, okay, before I lose this train of thought.
Sure.
This is one of my favorite topics of all of life. And I talk about this with all my friends, and everybody has kind of a different answer. And I kind of am gauging yours now from what you just said. But it is that kind of age old question of, do you believe that there's a destiny, that we are just following a path and the destiny is laid out kind of almost irregardless of our choices? Or do you believe that we create our own realities based off of choices that we make? And I have gone back and forth on this because I guess I didn't even understand really what I was trying to translate for myself. But what I landed on, because I also am Christian as well. However, where I fall off is where the religion comes in.
Yeah.
Amen. It's exactly me. I have what I feel is my own personal relationship with God, and what I've kind of come to terms with, at least the way I kind of see it, is I feel that God does have a destiny for me. Absolutely. That I have chosen, because I do think you have the choice. I've chosen to fulfill it. And so I spend my day trying to fulfill that, channel that, do what God is calling me to do, because I chose that I would like to follow that path. And so in my mind, I do think that there is a destiny. And when I tell you that by living that way, it's almost yes, I'm putting in the effort. Yes, if you know me, anyone watching this knows, I don't quit. I am always working. I am always on it. Yes, I am doing the work. But I really believe that I'm being 100% led, and that I am just, in a way, a vessel. I'm channeling things in because I'm open, I'm accepting, and I said yes to that path. So I believe that more, I guess, on the destiny side of things, but you do have to accept the mission, I think.
Oh my God, this is the greatest interview ever so far.
I know. I'm I've never got to talk about this with someone in a professional setting. So this is so fun. But this is something all my friends, again, everyone has their own take on it.
Of course.
And obviously nothing's right or wrong, but it's so interesting, especially people who are more spiritually or, intellectually in tune with themselves in that way. It's interesting to hear perspectives. So I'm interested to see what you think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I talk so much on my show. I feel bad for talking so much.
No, I love it. I want to hear it.
Everybody's Rob, it's about her. I think the hardest part about spiritualism, and I'm not talking about new ageisms, or, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus here.
Right.
There are obviously different variations on everything. You put 1,000 Christians into a church, they're going to have 1,000 different views on abortion. And they're all going to argue.
Yes.
Because we all think whatever our take is correct. And very few people are willing to moderate and to be moderated. They're not willing to come to the middle. They'll all say they are, but they aren't. Then in fact, which is whether it's Donald Trump or going down the road on with Biden in the politics world, the reason people, of course, are so polarized now is because we like what these people say. And we like to align ourselves in those directions, but we don't want anybody to know we actually like to align ourselves, because then it exposes us. Yeah. And I don't want to, again, I'm not throwing I have family who are huge Trump supporters. I personally don't understand it. And it actually makes me quite sad. But it also at the same time doesn't mean they're awful people. Right. And, I used to have a show with a local radio legend here in Seattle. His name is Spike O'Neill, and he is the most liberal, extreme liberal I've ever met in my life. Yeah. He's also brilliant and adorable and funny. And I love him with all my heart. But we have we don't even have in a Venn diagram, we're not even close in politics or religion or anything. I mean, we literally have nothing.
But this is a friend of yours, though?
One of my favorites.
How beautiful is that?
And that's exactly my point is we know these things about each other, but we don't let them get in the way of coloring who we believe the other person is because we don't share the same morals, whatever the heck that is, right? And I think when you get down to it, you and I talking today, we could be in agreement in a lot of things about our own spiritual walks and growing up and giving ourselves a label like Christian. But there are still 10 billion, because there's so many people on the planet, 10 billion variations on the same title of human being. And, and the beauty of this show is the music really is secondary to the artist, the creative person, the spark, because you put 1,000 real estate agents in a room, every one of them's got their own pitch. And sometimes the pitch is eye contact. Sometimes the pitch is a certain smile or a sense of humor. And each one of them is valuable. And I wish I didn't have to sort of pad the show with celebrity, but you know, the problem that I discover, and maybe you discover this in your own walk in the music space, is how do you get people to pay attention to you when you're not famous? Because there's this weird obsession with, I'll watch a show or I'll go to a concert or I'll listen to a podcast because that's a name I recognize. When if you actually have the balls to listen to them all, you're going to be like, holy shit.
I know.
I mean, like this band I'm wearing today, it's a band from Europe called Weston Supermame.
Oh, cool.
Those guys, it was just, they're unbelievable. They're
cool. I need to check it out.
It's super heavy. Two super heavy progressive metal. Just, it's amazing with the whole.
Oh yeah.
But those guys, not only is the music incredibly ferocious and exciting and exhilarating and really different, really, really different.
Cool,
if you actually listen to it within that genre, when I interviewed the guys, I've interviewed them twice. And those guys are lovely. I mean, that's the first word that came out of my head.
Which is not what you would expect.
Lovely. Yeah. So
that's so cool. I love that.
There it is. So so what's your takeaway on my takeaway about the idea of being you in the center of it, no matter what?
I love it because I think, you know, it's so funny. I think this is probably more common than not, but I think so often, and like maybe we wouldn't even know this till we sat down, but so many of us are saying the same thing. Yeah. We're just saying it a little differently, or we're assigning like a different title or, you know, something to what we're expressing. But I think like we just have so much more in common, and not even just you and I mean, but just out there in general. Yeah. There's so much more in common than not. Especially when it comes to like intentions and like, you know, kind of the base of like humanity. And so just hearing you talk, I'm like, I totally see that. Like you have me thinking like, yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying too. You know, it's like, we're very much saying almost the same thing, just kind of in a different way. So I love that.
Yeah, it's through our own personal vocabulary, right?
Exactly.
And again, me being 56, I have my literal vocabulary in the sense of I've had 56 years to develop it, right? Right. Also, where I grew up in a very rural part of the state. So I'm influenced by everything from farm culture, you know, country, Western, all these things that a lot of people like me have not experienced. Yeah. And yet I went to high school in probably the most liberal city in the United States, which is Olympia, Washington.
Oh, wow.
Which is where, I mean, I went to high school with the drummer from Bikini Kill.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
Right. I mean, you know, I lived in a punk rock town. My Evergreen State College was right by my house.
That is wild.
And here I was, this good Christian boy, right?
Totally.
Growing up in very much not that.
Yes.
And not knocking it. I find it extraordinary that I was so fortunate to experience just a collage, right? People became an art project for me.
Absolutely.
Right. I discovered so much. I mean, truly, actually, the word unique actually became unique.
Exactly.
You know?
I love that. I mean, I think that's literally what life is for, is to experience a little bit of it all. And just even as a human being, but speaking as a musician, everything I write, everything I do artistically is 100% based off of everything around me. And that's not just the glitz and glam and the LA and, you know, the typical what you are expecting, but like everything, every person I met along the way, every unique experience I've had, every time I've been in a situation similar to what you're saying, where I'm just kind of like, you know, this very different entity and like floating around in a world of like something that I wouldn't normally associate myself with. I just think that's what's enriching in life. And that's where my music comes from. I think that's why I've always tried to be, not even tried to be, just naturally been more of like an authentic artist. I can glam it up. I can make it fun and sexy. And obviously like all the things, you can see it all over my brand.
I've seen it in the videos.
Yeah.
You definitely know how to do it.
Thank you. But the funny thing is like when people get to know me and they all say the same thing, some of my closest friends are like, we did not expect it. You are goofy, nerdy, fun. Like we feel like we just, and it's because that's just more who I am than not. And that's always been, I guess, a blessing, but also a curse, is like, I'm not good at like playing the game. I'm not good at like trying to be this person that I'm not. I'm not good at it. So that kind of want and necessity to be a human being first has always kind of come out in my music.
Yeah. You know, this touches on a really great subject, a good topic, is the idea of persona. Because you listen to any interview, artists talk about creating a stage persona. They talk about playing a character on stage. You know, Brian Warner did it as Marilyn Manson.
Right.
Madonna does it as Madonna.
Right.
You could do it as your own version of Fia Nyxx, right?
Exactly.
There's all these variations. However, the part that is disingenuous, and has nothing to do with you, but when other people say this, they go like, well, yeah, but that's a character, that's not really me. And I call bullshit. It is absolutely.
I was just going to say that.
It's part of you. And like,
I feel like it's the best, not to cut you off. I feel like it's the best version of yourself. It's the you that maybe you don't feel as confident putting out there in the normal day, walking down the street.
Right. And so in other words, I think the artists that really win in the sense of creating that persona isn't so much that they're creating an extreme variation on what, you know, we like again, going back to Marilyn Manson and saying, wow, that's really creepy or whatever. And, ooh, isn't that interesting? It's so creepy. Right. But the reality is Brian Warner digs being dark. He actually feels dark. And the truth is he wants to represent that because that's not a fear. That's who he is. And the ability to step into what people believe is a persona and to say, no, I mean, I'm telling you that because you need to hear it because you'd be afraid of me if I didn't say that.
Totally. That's a good point.
Is exactly why he's successful, because people know when you're full of shit.
Absolutely. You can tell when you watch someone on stage and it's just not. You can tell when something is authentic and when something is forced.
Yep.
And I completely agree with you. And it's funny because people have always said that with me, like, oh, Fia Nyxx, and again, like very different now, who you're talking to now and who you would see on stage would seem to you to be like two different people, most likely.
Right.
But it's not that. Yeah. Fia Nyxx is, when I am on stage, it is absolutely me. Like Fia Nyxx is embodying who my soul wants to portray itself in its grandest form. So when this soul is unafraid and confident and excited and has stories to tell and like songs to sing and messages to share, that is what she would look like. And we just tend to call her Fia Nyxx, but it is absolutely me still. There is no character. I'm not doing a show, a play. Like, it's a heightened version, like a free, open, very, you know, take down all the walls type of Fia Nyxx, but it's not a character. And I feel like those are my favorite artists.
Yes.
Not myself. Well, yes, but I mean, like the people that I emulate and that I love, I feel that way about. Prince. Yeah. Like some of our like legendary people, I feel like when you watch them, you see like there's nothing fake or contrived or rehearsed about that. That is somebody going out there and just unleashing this bigger than life sort of experience for their soul, and you're getting to witness it. And that is like what I love about musicians, artists, anybody who's, you know, not afraid to let that out.
Yeah, David Bowie was, you know, obviously his real name, everything was David Jones. I don't know if you know that, but that was his actual given name. But the reality is he was David Bowie. He came off the stage. He's still David Bowie. He was just maybe a less heightened version of David Bowie, but he was still David Bowie. Ozzy Osbourne, Prince, these are people who have bigger than life, right? Freddie Mercury, but that's who they really were.
Exactly.
Nikki Sixx, his name is actually Nikki Sixx.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, yes, he changed it, but it's because he didn't like who he was. And granted, that's a whole different thing, you know, we can talk about some other time. But the reality is okay, so sometimes, because look, we all have a broken piece in us, all of us, and the ones who say they don't are absolutely judgmental and fools because they're just afraid to admit they have that broken piece. But you know, I like that. I like it when people, I think the word is authenticity.
Yes.
We just have to be who we are. And, you know, and that's really all that matters. And so I got to bring this up because, because if I don't, we're never going to get there.
I know.
So I have to bring up. So for everybody wondering why there's a white thing in front of my face all of a sudden, it's because I brought my notes up.
I know we're a little off topic, but this is like what I love. Is like it's so authentic.
It is, and I mean that's what we're supposed to do. But okay, but we are here to talk about the new album.
Yes.
Red Umbrella, and the reason I had to bring it up is because I was having so much fun I couldn't remember the name of the album all of a sudden.
No worries.
But you have a new single, "Don't Shame Me," and you know I was looking at your past work and you, I think like 4 years ago, I think you had a song called maybe Love Me, maybe Just Love Me.
Yeah.
And so here's what I wanted to say. I'm going to make my notes go away so I can actually see you again. Maybe Just Love Me was what I would call old school BSM. It was, I don't know if you know what that term is.
Mm-hmm. I do.
Okay. Well, a lot of people are like, what's BSM? I'm like, okay, just look it up, folks.
Literally.
But old school BSM, soul music, just groovy, sexy soul music. Very intimate, very intense. And not to say that, you know, your new material isn't that, but you've clearly made a leap. I mean, clearly made a leap. So what are you trying to say with the leap? And are you done with the way you used to do things?
So here's the thing you're dead on, because Maybe Just Love Me and my first album is called Everything Girl. It was actually recorded at Muscle Shoals, Alabama, Fame Studios. So cool. Yes, and we actually used, Will McFarlane was the music director, and we used all the original Swampers. So like that album will forever be iconic, and like those guys are not, you know, young ducklings anymore. So
that's the real deal.
And to get to have had that experience with them, especially being so green, I was so new at the time. To get to go there and compose, we were there for 2 weeks. We did the entire album, top to bottom, there. I had written the songs with my producer at the time. It's a long story, but I had a distribution deal through Sony. So my producer and I and our team, we had like 10 songs we went down there with, like more of just skeletons, I guess. And then we produced everything out, recorded everything top to bottom while we were there. Mm-hmm. Coolest experience ever. But that music, for two reasons. For one, I was very, very, very new. Prior to that, I had been in a girl group that did EDM music. And we were more of like dancers who could sing, because that's how I started, as a dancer in like professional dance industry. So we were in a girl group. We did mostly like EDM pop music. We did like, circuit kind of tours. And then long story short, got dropped from the label, girl group broke up. I still wanted to do music, branched out, did my own thing, ended up finding this connection through Sony, and then hence birthed this new album, because I've always wanted to do more of like an R&B soulful type of vibe. So given that was a direction, and that we had this incredible opportunity to work with these legends, that music very much was guided. And because I was so new to the process, I didn't know who I was as a vocalist at all. I was very much being guided, and that music is amazing and beautiful. And even to this day, I stand behind it. I think it's great. But where you're hearing this major leap is after that, the years that happened between the release of that album and all the work I did to become who I am now, releasing Red Umbrella, was a combination of things. Me, first and foremost, getting to know who I am as an artist. What kind of music do I want to make? Okay. Not just like this broad idea of, I like R&B, soul, Motown. Somebody show me what to do. It's like, what do I like about those elements? Like, what about that resonates with me? But also, like, who am I as a singer? And so it was like this mixture of taking my influences, things I liked, things that worked, and expanding upon that. It was a lot of vocal lessons. It was a lot of like life experiences. It was just me honing in all these different assets of what it really means to be a musician, because it's not just getting a beat from a producer and singing some words and writing a quick melody and putting it out. To me, that's not what it is. To me, it is like a musical manifestation of where I am in my life at that moment. So it's a combination of everything that's going on around me, who I'm becoming as a person, the lessons I'm learning, the hardships, the exciting times, the emotions, the things that work, the things that don't. And so what happened was, over the course of that time, I was writing, I was putting stuff together. I had also kind of like completely left my team and like had to start over. That's a whole nother story for another time. So I was kind of in this place of like, well, now I don't know what to do, because I've never done an album by myself. I was very much guided in that experience. How the freak am I going to do this? And so through the course
my mom will like the way you put that, just so you know.
I know. I was like,
she's like, Rob, stop swearing. I'm like,
I know. But so I ended up reconnecting with my best friend of all time. He's now my like only producer. He's like the only person I'll work with. I'm like very openly exclusive in that way. But he and I kind of like got together, and then mostly through the pandemic, we spent like every single day in his studio, just like trying shit, weird shit, good stuff, like just trying it. And that was when I was like, this is the gold mine. You as an artist have to just go in there and try everything, because I learned so much about who I was as a vocalist and the music I could make. I learned things that I can do. I learned what doesn't work. And like, it's weird, because I've always been this way. I am most afraid of what I am going to think of myself. And that seems very strange, but I think it is such a humbling experience to sit with yourself and hear yourself or watch yourself epically fail and be okay with it. It's embarrassing as hell. And it's like something that makes you just like cringe inside, because it's this very real moment of like, wow, I freaking suck. That was horrible. And I have work to do. And that is so humbling and embarrassing. But when I realized that, like, after that, it is what it is, and then you have to get better, like, or you just, it's not that bad. So we did that for like years. We were just trying things and writing things, and pretty soon, and that whole experience of Red Umbrella was just that. It was no parameters. There was no label or producer or anyone telling me what I could do, what I couldn't do. Like, it was just us experimenting and having a blast doing it, and not being afraid to like be embarrassed in front of each other. And like, he was, in the beginning of his production, phase as well. Now he's huge, but at the time too, he was kind of newer. And so we were just trying things out, and all of a sudden it was like, there was no genre we had to fit in. There was no parameters. And so it was just amazing what evolved. And I love that album, that body of work, because it truly does tell a story from song 1 to song 8 or whatever there is, 7, 8.
Yeah.
And you can hear this like evolution of sound and just artistry from one song to the next. And there really is no one genre that fits into. And I'm so cool with it. Like, I love what manifested, and it was just absolutely that. Like, that is the leap that you're hearing, and it wasn't even intentional. It was just an unleashing of, you know, who I wanted to be.
The truth became real. It became real.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. I mean, because that's the thing. It was already there. It goes back to the spiritual discussion we had earlier, which is, if I was made for a specific purpose, then it's already in me.
Absolutely.
It's up to me to find it, or to at least do my very best version of it and put it out there. And then my audience over time, if this is really what I excel at, then it's my audience over time will find me.
Yes.
But you have to be willing, because the word passion means to suffer. You have to be willing to wallow. You do. You have to be willing to be miserable. And I will tell you, I am miserable all of the damn time. And my poor wife and kids have to deal with it because I'm like, when am I going to break out, God?
Oh, totally.
This is so awful to be me. Why did I choose this? You know, and it's the funny thing is, though, I have this conversation with almost every artist, which is, why are we so nuts?
I don't know. I think it takes that. I think you have to be kind of nuts to like go down this path because of what you're saying. It's a lot of self-sacrifice. And so if you're not a little nuts, like the normal nuts person would say, hell to the no.
Yeah, I got to get a normal job, live a normal life, retire at 65, drive an RV for the rest of my days. Right,
exactly.
Right. That's which I admit I would like to do, but I just can't bring myself. I mean, you can call me pathetic. I cannot bring myself to do that walk, and it doesn't mean that's beneath me, or it just means it's not where I'm supposed to be. I desire to be in this space and speaking to you and doing voiceover commercials and looking to break out that way. And I like the idea the most, and I like this for you too, which is that there's gonna be a moment in both of our lives, and it might come really soon, where we both break out and everybody says, "See, I told you." And you're like, "You didn't say that at all, you dick."
Literally. There's always those people. But hey, you said it here today on this show. So that day comes, we will pull this interview back up and we'll be like, "We told you so."
Yeah, I mean, one of my best friends, and I love him to death, but it really did hurt my feelings. I called him, I don't know, it was a number of years ago now, but I'll never forget it because I was driving down the freeway and he goes, "Hey, Rob, how you doing?" I go, "Good." And he goes, "So what are you doing now?" And I was just like, oh my God, dude.
It's like such a backhanded.
Yeah. Like, I like you, but how pathetic are you?
Right. You know what I mean? What are you doing now? Like, have you figured something else out? That's what that sounds like.
Okay. So back on target to you. So we've got the album. Now, you were telling me offline that you have a new thing you're developing now, and you're actually heading more towards like rock. What's the deal? Because I got to know why you would be like supreme R&B goddess, and now you're moving towards the rock space.
It's because, again, I'm being pulled that way. I'm being called that way. And if I really am honest with you, I think that I've always, without knowing what to call it, there's always been this inner rock star superhero. Mm-hmm. Just kidding.
Yeah, well, that's why you're here, sister.
There's always been this inner rock star. And like, if you just watch my live shows, something clicks in me that is just this, it just doesn't, R&B, I can kill it. I love it. It has a part of my heart. There's something missing. The grit, the grime, the grungy, the unafraid, the powerhouse, the in your face that rock embodies for me, or at least the element of rock that I would like to implement. I haven't done it yet. And I've been pulled that way, but I think I just haven't been ready. I think I need to do all these other things first before I could jump into that. So this is just going to be, and I'm not sure what's going to unfold. I'll be really honest with you. I'm inspired. I have my rock inspirations. Like I have things I want to kind of figure out and tap into, but it could go a whole nother way. It could be a Fia Nyxx version of rock, but whatever it is, that like uncanny, gritty, messy, sexy, grungy that rock embodies is in there and is like just clawing to get out. And I haven't done it yet. And I'm just like, I've been waiting for this moment my entire career. And I think for just so many reasons, I felt like I'm not ready, or I'm too scared, or it's just too out there. And it's like, now I know, like, I am ready, and I'm going. Next time you see me on stage and this rock music is ready, you're going to be like, holy shit.
Good.
People are going to be like, there she is. This entire time we've led up to this moment.
That's good. So are you familiar with the band from the UK called Sleep Token?
Sleep Token? No, I'm not.
Okay. So everybody listening, check out Sleep Token, Token.
Okay.
They are an anonymous collective. So it's like Kiss. You don't know who they are underneath their masks.
Oh, cool.
Okay. But they mix jazz, metal, and soul.
Love that. And how?
And how. And here's the thing. They do it so well. At first, when I first heard it, I was like, okay, I like that riff. I want more of that riff. And they didn't give it to me. And it kind of bothered me.
Totally.
Right? They just released a new album, and one of the singles off it is called The Summoning, and that's the one that seems to have broken them into the zeitgeist, right? It's the one where people are paying attention. There's all these reviews online and all these reaction videos on YouTube. But the song starts out very heavy, and there's this sort of soulful singing over this very heavy, groovy thing. But then the song takes an absolute 180 at the end, when you would think it would close big and bold, and it ends. It sounds like 1975 Elton John.
Oh,
and
what?
And you're like, with piano and everything, and you're like,
oh man,
what the hell?
Yeah, what just happened?
And part of me, as a musician who likes tidy, I mean, I'm a musician, I'm a drummer, so I like math in music. And it can be crazy. It can be 7, 9, 12, 14, 18, 21. I don't care. But I like themes to come back around. I like bookended pieces of music. And I'm not going to take that. I'm never going to change that. So Sleep Token challenges that, because it's saying, nope, we're just
no formula here.
Yeah. And so
cool.
I bring that up for you because I think their penchant for failing to hold on to traditional songwriting tropes and to have the balls to jump way off the cliff.
Yes.
Might be one more impetus, one more thing for you to hear.
Yes.
That says, oh, I know how to connect the dots with what I do.
Yes.
And I think, because again, you're clearly talented. I don't have people on the show who I don't admire in some fashion, shape, or form. So I think you running off in that direction is greatly appealing to me as a rock guy, because anybody who listens to the show knows I have very few soul or rap artists, because it tends not to be my jam.
Not your thing, right?
It has to be the right thing. Yours is the right thing.
Thank you.
So for what that's worth, listen to Sleep Token.
No, I'm going to as soon as we get done here, because I'm very curious. But I love that.
Yeah. Check out The Summoning. Yeah,
that's exactly. And I think you were meant to tell me that, because that's the first thing I'm going to think of before I go into, my next session tomorrow. So
yeah. The key, I think, so I've been thinking a couple things since hit my microphone there. A couple things that you mentioned that really made me think, and you're going to roll your eyes, but I have to say this out loud. In 1991, Alanis Morissette was on, that crappy show with Ed McMahon, not Catch a Rising Star, but Star Search.
Oh, Star Search. Oh, yeah.
And I don't even think she won. I think she got second or something like that. And because back then she was trying to be a pop star.
Right.
And then it took 3 or 4 years, and she met Glenn Ballard, her producer, who helped her unleash whatever it was inside of her, the beast, the angry girl. But she needed those experiences she needed her heart torn apart,
right,
to write these songs that people bought, because all of a sudden she meant it. And again, it goes back to that transparency. People want to know you mean it.
You just gave me chills.
And so I don't want to put you, and again, I'm not putting her on a pedestal. I'm not a big, huge Alanis fan. I mean, it is what it is. She's good. I like some of her stuff. Some of it is just bleh. But like ironic. Well, what's ironic is the song's not about irony. How about that for ironic?
Right.
Dumb. No, anyway. But what I like about your material, and one, I already like it. So I know you're talented, and I like the human.
Thank you.
To me, if you're gonna take that risk, well, it makes sense that in my brain, I'm like, okay, well, she's got the producer, or the producer that has helped her find her nuggets and then left her to do those things and to hone them rather than, no, you need to go in that direction.
Exactly.
And that's badass. And I think you're going to be the next Alanis. I do.
Ah, that's huge.
I do.
Thank you so much.
And I know what I'm talking about.
You too. That's major. No, I really appreciate that. And I'm gonna make it so that you are correct.
Please, but I want to play. I want you to call me. Okay. I want to play one track on your new record.
Deal. Absolutely.
Yeah, I will. I mean, I really want.
That's so funny because I was literally gonna ask you if you're like still doing that.
Yeah, I still do sessions. It's been far and few between, mostly because I hung up my sticks, if you will, back in 2003 when I had my heart broken a couple times with bands, and I just didn't want to feel like crap anymore.
I hear that.
And we had a couple of development deals, and we had this opportunity with Epic, and then we had another opportunity with Sony, and things were just so exciting, but they were so fleeting. Yeah. And for whatever reason, I just didn't have it. I admit it. I'm a total pansy. I just didn't have the courage to stick it out anymore. I was 37. How many times do I have to get close and not get it?
Yep.
Whatever it was. And so, I left the business, and I've done some sessions off and on over the past 20 years, but I admit I've really, really missed it. And I sat down recently. Sorry, folks, I'm talking about me again.
No, we love it.
But I sat down recently, and I keep my drums actually at a church in next town over, because I've got a drum booth and everything, and I could just go in there and play.
Oh,
and
nice!
It's all mic'd up, so I mean, it's like ready for recording.
Perfect.
And I sat down and I put on a Kansas record from like 1978. Stuff I grew up on, and played along with it. And I just realized how much I missed it and how much I have to woodshed to get my chops back.
Totally.
But they're there, right? Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I would love to be on your record.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is get those sticks out, Rob. Better get in that church and start practicing.
That's right. My wife's going to tell me, well, you better get frickin' going, because now you actually have a chance to play with a frickin' megastar, and you're going to blow it.
I'm 100% holding you to that. So it's a done deal.
Done. I will get myself back to 1993 quality for you.
Yes, let's go.
Okay. So we know where you're going. We know who you are. We know where you've been. I don't want to talk about fear. I don't want to end this on something negative, but I do want to ask you, because, artists, we tend to be crazy, and we tend to be afraid of the unknown. I mean, we're turned on by the unknown, but we're afraid of it. Yeah. And so this is gonna feel like I'm throwing you under the bus, but I'm not. But just bear with me here.
Okay.
I look at your early music, I look at your recent music, and I see a woman who's become comfortable with her sexuality. And I say this because this is taboo. We're not supposed to talk about women and sexuality on shows because people want to cancel me. This is kind of right. But you said everything goes. Everything,
girl. Let's go.
So, and this isn't a religious question.
Okay.
The hardest part to me about being who we really are is culture, family, faith, tells us some things aren't allowed.
Yep.
We're not allowed to be sexual beings. We're not allowed to want sex. We're not allowed to sell sex.
Yep.
Or at least the concept of it. How do you take what you've done and how you've become, how you've basically increased your femininity and your womanhood? You've made it very clear. Not aggressively, but you're certainly not shying away from who you are as a woman.
Yes.
How do you take it, not to the next step, but how do you take it to a place of maturity where people take you seriously and don't just look at you as an object?
I love that. You know, it's interesting, before I quite answer that, just to touch on one thing. I have always noticed this particular stigma, especially for especially for women, in the music industry.
Yep.
There's a very cookie cutter standard of like what a female musician should look like. And I will say the industry is getting a little better, but come on now, it's still very much sexualized. It's still, and talk about forced. I feel like a lot of it is forced and you can feel that.
Yeah.
With me, I like to think that side of me that you're seeing is just very authentic. It's me coming into myself naturally, not forced, not like trying to be sexy. I think the grossest thing you can do is try to be sexy. For sure. Sexiness should just come naturally or just not. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I feel like, but
perfect example of not.
No. Oh my God, that's so funny.
Oh my God.
No, that's not what I meant at all. But no, but one thing that this reminds me of, and I know you said it's not a religious question, and I'll try not to bring it there again. But what I will say, I think there is this beautiful way to be all of those things. And like, it's kind of funny because I did it without knowing I was doing it. This must have always been something I resonated with. But my first ever album is called Everything Girl.
Right.
And what that is a play off of is women can, or men or whoever, human beings can coexist with themselves, meaning you can be all these things. You can be naturally sexy, sexual, okay with your sexuality, want to have sex, want to sell, whatever the hell. You can be sexy. Sex is natural. It is part of the human experience. Mm-hmm. You can also be spiritual and religious and believe in something that is divine or femininely divine or spiritually powerful in one way or another. Yeah. You can be a woman who is strong and a businesswoman and an entrepreneur, and you can also be a loving nurturer, and you can also be like, it is, and actually, as I'm saying this, both of my albums are about that. Red Umbrella, same thing. It's supposed to show all the sides, all the assets of who I am as a woman or as a human being. Let's just broaden it that much more. Right. These things are not mutually exclusive. And so even in my shows, and this is a great example of this, I always do my normal thing that comes natural, sexy, fun, cute outfits. I'm very cool with my sexuality. I've always been that way. My parents, to answer that question, are just used to it because they know my heart, and they're like, my dad's still like, oh my God, she's wearing that on stage. Right. But also he knows my heart, he knows my soul, and that's just me. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a
persona, but it's still part of your persona, which we talked about earlier, right?
Right. And that's just who I am. And I think it's all how you do things and what your intentions are. Right. And so I will always have that element to me, but at every show, I always do some amount of cover songs that resonate, and almost always a couple of them end up being religious songs or gospel songs. Like I'm very tied to gospel music. I incorporate that a lot in my shows. I often in my shows end up talking about spiritual divine things, dressed like this in a crop top. And I think that's more powerful, because you want to talk about inspiring people and relating to people, meet them where they're at. And this is me saying, I'm a human being and I am so imperfect and I am all the things you said I shouldn't be. But guess what? I'm still here and it's still okay. And I still believe in God and I'm still sexy and I'm still all these things. Oh. And I'm up there representing it for everybody so that it becomes more normal. Like, that is who we are. Why do we have to fit in these boxes or be, if you're this, you can't be that. And if you're that, you can't be this. No, we are all those things. And it works because you relate to that. Like, people can see that and be like, oh, okay, well, if she can do that, then I guess I'm okay. I guess that means that, God doesn't hate me because I'm, out there sexually or whatever the hell. I just think it needs to be, the only thing we can do to progress is to break those stigmas and just start being honest and vulnerable and expressing all sides of that coin. So I just try to embrace that in all of my work, in all of my shows, and who I am as a human being. I think those things are all just part of who we are.